The snow melts. In a small village nestled in the harsh embrace of nature in the Scottish Highlands, winter blanketed the landscape with snow, creating a serene yet isolating atmosphere. Lena Marlowe, a 28-year-old fine arts graduate, found herself trapped within the four walls of her cluttered home, her unkempt hair reflecting the pale winter light. Once an aspiring illustrator, Lena's dreams had crumbled under the weight of repeated rejections, leaving her feeling isolated and burdened by insecurities. Her days became monotonous, filled with instant noodles, canned food and despair as she avoided the outside world. Her parents, deeply concerned about her state, sought help from their warm-hearted neighbor, Ethan Calloway. Ethan believed in Lena's talent and offered her an opportunity to illustrate a children's book series. Though hesitant and plagued by insecurities, Lena decided to try again. Wrestling with her fears, she poured her heart into the project, but the first book's lack of success made her feel the weight of despair. Ethan encouraged her to show perseverance, reminding her that talent doesn't disappear and success requires effort. Gradually, Lena overcame her insecurities and began creating more illustrations. The snow outside melted into sparkling streams, symbolizing hope, as Lena's life began making way for new light. Completing her first comic book marked a turning point, and a faint light began to emerge in her once bleak world. Over time, Lena's vivid illustrations captured the audience's imagination, and her children's book series gained popularity. A year later, Lena received an email announcing her book had made the bestseller list. Standing by the window, she gazed at the snow, no longer feeling trapped within the four walls or alone. Lena realized she had hit rock bottom, but discovered that perseverance could transform despair into hope. The late winter sun reminded her that dreams will bloom with time and effort. Her story exemplifies the importance of resilience and the belief that success is not a destination but a journey. Through her struggles, Lena learned that even in the darkest times, as long as one keeps moving forward, a brighter future awaits.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Insights. I'm Sophia.
And I'm Andy. Thanks for joining us today for another inspiring episode.
Today, we're diving into a heartwarming story of resilience and hope inspired by the Scottish Highlands. Our topic is based on the story When the Snow Melts, which beautifully captures how perseverance can turn despair into hope.
That's right, Sophia. The story revolves around Lena Marlowe, a fine arts graduate whose dreams of becoming an illustrator were crushed by repeated rejections.
Yes, but it's also a tale of redemption. With the support of a kind neighbor, Ethan Calloway, Lena found the courage to try again. And as the snow melted, so did the barriers hold her back.
It's such a powerful metaphor. In today's episode, we'll explore Lena's journey, learn some key vocabulary, and share tips to improve your English skills while discussing this uplifting story.
So grab your notebook and let's get started. Before we dive into Lena's journey, let's go over a few key terms and phrases to help you follow along more easily.
Great idea. Let's start with blanketed. It means covered completely, as if with a blanket.
For example, the village was blanketed in snow, hiding the ground beneath.
Exactly. Another word is whistling. This refers to making a high-pitched sound by forcing air through a narrow opening.
You might hear the wind whistling through the cracks of an old house, just like in Lena's village.
Next we have unkempt. This means not properly maintained or messy.
Lena's unkempt hair reflected the pale winter light, showing how much she had neglected herself.
Let's move on to crumble. This word means something has broken down or collapsed.
Lena's dreams crumbled under the weight of repeated rejections, leaving her feeling hopeless.
Another important word is isolation. This refers to being separated from others, often leading to loneliness.
During the harsh winters, Lena felt isolation in her remote village, far from her family and friends.
Now, let's talk about perseverance. It's the continued effort to achieve something despite difficulties. You are stopping.
Lena showed great perseverance by continuing to work on her art, even when no one seemed to care.
Another word is insecurities. These are feelings of uncertainty or lack of confidence.
Lena often struggled with insecurities, doubting her abilities as an artist.
Now, let's look at despair. It's a feeling of complete hopelessness.
After failing to get her work noticed, Lena sank into despair, thinking her dreams would never come true.
And let's not forget gradually. This means slowly over time, not suddenly. Here's
The snow gradually melted as the weather warmed, just as Lena's hope started to return.
The last word is sparkling. This means shining brightly with flashes of light.
The snowmelt turned into streams, sparkling under the sunlight, symbolizing new beginnings.
Now, let's take a look at some useful phrases.
First, we have nestled in the harsh embrace of nature. This describes being securely settled within a challenging natural environment.
For example, Lena's village was nestled in the harsh embrace of nature, surrounded by mountains and forests.
Next, trapped within the four walls refers to feeling confined or stuck in a small space.
Lena often felt trapped within the four walls of her house, unable to escape her isolation.
Another phrase is pouring her heart into. This means dedicating oneself fully and passionately to something.
Lena was pouring her heart into every illustration she created, determined to succeed despite her struggles.
Now, let's look at felt the weight of despair. This describes experiencing intense sadness or hopelessness.
Lena felt the weight of despair when her work wasn't appreciated, and she doubted her future.
Making way for new light is about allowing space for hope or positive changes to emerge.
As the snow melted, it felt like winter was making way for new light, signaling hope for Lena's future.
The next phrase is marking a turning point. It refers to a significant change or pivotal moment.
Completing her first book marked a turning point in Lena's career, showing that hard work can lead to success.
Captured the audience's imagination means to successfully engage or fascinate the audience.
Lena's vivid illustrations captured the audience's imagination, drawing them into her world.
Now we have a faint light began to emerge. This means a small sign of hope or positivity started to appear.
After finishing her book, a faint light began to emerge in Lena's life, signaling a brighter future ahead.
Next, dreams will bloom refers to the idea that hopes and aspirations will flourish or come true.
Lena knew that, with time, her dreams would bloom, just like flowers blossoming in the spring.
Lastly, hit rock bottom describes reaching the lowest point in one's life or situation.
Lena once thought she had hit rock bottom, but she found the strength to rise again and continue pursuing her dreams.
Let's dive into the story, Andy. It begins in a small village in the Scottish Highlands, where winter created a serene but isolating scene.
Lena Marlowe, a 28-year-old aspiring illustrator, found herself trapped, both physically and emotionally, within the four walls of her cluttered home.
She had given up on her dreams after facing repeated rejections, leaving her feeling burdened by insecurities. Her days were monotonous, filled with instant noodles and despair.
It's a relatable struggle for many creators, isn't it? But Lena's turning point came when her neighbor, Ethan Calloway, offered her an opportunity to illustrate a children's book series.
Despite her doubts, Lena decided to try again. But the first book's lack of success made her feel the weight of despair once more.
Ethan's encouragement was crucial. He reminded Lena that talent doesn't disappear and that success requires effort and perseverance.
Gradually, Lena overcame her insecurities and began creating more illustrations. As the snow outside melted into sparkling streams, it symbolized the hope returning to her life.
And her hard work paid off. Over time, her children's book series gained popularity, and a year later, one of her books made the bestseller list.
Standing by her window, Lena realized that perseverance had transformed her despair into hope. The late winter sun reminded her that dreams will bloom with time and effort.
What an inspiring story. It shows that even when we hit rock bottom, there's always a way to climb back up.
Let's listen to the summary of story When the Snow Melts.
The snow melts. In a small village nestled in the harsh embrace of nature in the Scottish Highlands, winter blanketed the landscape with snow, creating a serene yet isolating atmosphere. Lena Marlowe, a 28-year-old fine arts graduate, found herself trapped within the four walls of her cluttered home, her unkempt hair reflecting the pale winter light. Once an aspiring illustrator, Lena's dreams had crumbled under the weight of repeated rejections, leaving her feeling isolated and burdened by insecurities. Her days became monotonous, filled with instant noodles, canned food and despair as she avoided the outside world. Her parents, deeply concerned about her state, sought help from their warm-hearted neighbor, Ethan Calloway. Ethan believed in Lena's talent and offered her an opportunity to illustrate a children's book series. Though hesitant and plagued by insecurities, Lena decided to try again. Wrestling with her fears, she poured her heart into the project, but the first book's lack of success made her feel the weight of despair. Ethan encouraged her to show perseverance, reminding her that talent doesn't disappear and success requires effort. Gradually, Lena overcame her insecurities and began creating more illustrations. The snow outside melted into sparkling streams, symbolizing hope, as Lena's life began making way for new light. Completing her first comic book marked a turning point, and a faint light began to emerge in her once bleak world. Over time, Lena's vivid illustrations captured the audience's imagination, and her children's book series gained popularity. A year later, Lena received an email announcing her book had made the bestseller list. Standing by the window, she gazed at the snow, no longer feeling trapped within the four walls or alone. Lena realized she had hit rock bottom, but discovered that perseverance could transform despair into hope. The late winter sun reminded her that dreams will bloom with time and effort. Her story exemplifies the importance of resilience and the belief that success is not a destination but a journey. Through her struggles, Lena learned that even in the darkest times, as long as one keeps moving forward, a brighter future awaits.
Let's listen to a heartfelt conversation between Emma and Jason, two individuals nestled in the harsh embrace of nature, as they navigate their struggles in a remote, snowy village. Emma feels trapped within the four walls of her unkempt house, where the isolation has magnified her insecurities and left her grappling with despair. Though she feels weighed down at times, Emma's perseverance shines through, as she pours her heart into making their home a more welcoming and hopeful space, striving to reclaim her dreams.
Jason, her steadfast companion, reminds Emma that even the harshest winters gradually give way, making way for new light. As the snow sparkles under the sunlight, a faint light begins to emerge in their lives, marking a turning point filled with hope and renewal. Together, they reflect on the belief that their dreams will bloom, and one day the story of their resilience will capture the audience's imagination. Their dialogue beautifully illustrates themes of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of perseverance.
Everything is blanketed in snow. It feels like the earth is hiding under a cover, nestled in the harsh embrace of nature, waiting for something new to begin.
Peaceful, maybe, but for me it feels like being trapped within the four walls of this house. The isolation is starting to feel unbearable.
I know what you mean. At first, I thought the quiet would help me reflect, but instead, my insecurities keep growing.
Mine too. And that whistling wind last night didn't help. It sounded like it was mourning something, like it was calling out to all our fears. Pessimist.
This place feels so unkempt, Jason. I've been pouring my heart into fixing it, but it's exhausting. Every time I make progress, something else crumbles, and I wonder if it's worth it.
Don't let despair take over, Emma. I know it feels like you've hit rock bottom, but your perseverance is what's keeping us moving forward. Then just...
There are days when I truly feel the weight of despair. It's hard to see how this could ever get better.
It will. Gradually, things are changing. Every small repair is marking a turning point for us, even if it doesn't feel like it yet.
You think so? Last week, when we patched the roof, it felt like a faint light began to emerge. Maybe you're right. Maybe we're moving forward.
We are, and soon as the snow melts, it'll feel like winter is making way for new light. When spring comes, Emma, our dreams will bloom here. I really believe that.
You think so? Even now, it's beautiful. The snow is sparkling, like a reminder that hope is always there, even in the darkest times.
Exactly. One day, this home and everything we've built here will capture the audience's imagination. People will see how we turn something broken into something extraordinary.
Nestled in the harsh embrace of nature, we've held on, Jason. That's worth something, isn't it?
It's worth everything. With time, hope, and perseverance, we'll transform this place. Dreams don't just survive the winter, they grow stronger.
In today's Fluency Speaking Developer segment, we're going to practice using vocabulary words. Let's get started.
Sounds great. Let's begin with blanketed. Instead of saying the snow covered everything, you can say,
The village was blanketed in snow, making everything look peaceful and quiet. The wind was whistling through the cracks in the house, creating a spooky sound.
That's much more vivid. Now, if someone's appearance is messy, instead of saying her hair was messy, you could say,
Lena's unkempt hair matched the rough weather outside, wild and untidy.
Perfect. Next, instead of saying, her dreams faded, you could use crumbled, like this.
Lena's dreams slowly crumbled after facing so many rejections.
That's really powerful. Now, if you want to talk about feeling alone, instead of saying she was lonely, you could say,
Lena felt the weight of isolation during the cold, lonely winters.
great. And if someone is not giving up, instead of saying she kept trying, you could say,
Lena showed perseverance by continuing to create art despite the challenges she faced.
that sounds much stronger. Now, when someone is feeling unsure about themselves, instead of saying she didn't feel confident, you could say,
Lena struggled with insecurities, wondering if anyone would appreciate her work.
I see. Now, if someone feels really sad, instead of saying, she was sad, you could say, Sinä sasto sero sesa.
Lena sank into despair after receiving yet another rejection.
That's deep. Now, when something happens slowly over time, instead of saying, the snow melted, you could say,
The snow gradually melted as spring approached, bringing new life.
That works really well. And finally, when you want to describe something shining, instead of saying the snow sparkled, you could say, Vad.
The sunlight hit the melting snow, and the streams of water began sparkling in the morning light.
I love that. These phrases are so much more expressive and help paint a vivid picture.
Let's continue by practicing how to use today's phrases in conversation. These will make your English sound more natural and descriptive.
Sounds great. Let's start with nestled in the harsh embrace of nature. Instead of saying the village was in a remote area, you could say,
The village was nestled in the harsh embrace of nature, surrounded by mountains and wild forests.
That paints a vivid picture. Now, if someone feels confined, instead of saying she felt stuck in her house, you could say,
Lena felt trapped within the four walls of her home, unable to break free from her loneliness.
That's a strong expression. Now, if someone is really dedicated to something, instead of saying she worked hard, you could say,
Lena was pouring her heart into her artwork, determined to make it perfect.
That really shows dedication. Next, if someone is feeling overwhelmed by sadness, instead of saying she felt hopeless, you could say,
Lena felt the weight of despair when her first project was rejected.
That's very powerful. Now, when something is changing for the better, instead of saying things started to improve, you could say things started to improve.
As the snow melted, it felt like winter was making way for new light and hope.
That's a beautiful image. Now, if something significant happens, instead of saying it was an important moment, you could say,
Finishing her first book marked a turning point in Lena's career as an artist.
So that really highlights the significance. Now, if something is fascinating or captivating, instead of saying her art was interesting, you could say that
Lena's illustrations captured the audience's imagination, drawing them into her world.
Great choice of words. Next, when hope starts to appear after difficulty, instead of saying she felt hopeful, you could say,
Peter completing her book, a faint light began to emerge in Lena's life, signaling a new beginning.
That sounds like a moment of hope. Now, if you want to say that something positive will happen over time, instead of saying her dreams will come true, you could say, schedule.
Lena knew that with time her dreams would bloom, just like the flowers in spring.
I love that image. And finally, if someone has reached their lowest point, instead of saying she felt like giving up, you could say,
Lena thought she had hit rock bottom, but she found the strength to rise again.
Those are some really powerful phrases. They make the conversation so much more engaging.
Exactly. Using these vocabulary words and phrases will help you speak more fluently and expressively. Keep practicing, and soon these will come naturally to you in everyday conversation. This podcast walks you through major vocabulary keywords, including the ones that animal rights advocates use to get committed to abortion. To wrap up, here are some tips for using this episode to improve your English.
First, try shadowing. Listen to phrases like perseverance or resilience, and repeat them aloud. mimicking the intonation and rhythm.
Second, write your own sentences using today's vocabulary. For example, perseverance is key to overcoming rejection and achieving success.
And don't forget to discuss these topics with a friend or language partner. Real-world discussions help build fluency and confidence.
You can also record yourself summarizing this story and play it back to identify areas for improvement.
That's all for today's episode. We hope Lena's story inspired you and gave you some valuable English skills.
If you have questions or want to share your thoughts, leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for tuning into English Insights. Until next time, take care.
Goodbye, everyone.